When German soldiers were captured on the battlefields of World War II, most braced themselves for humiliation, punishment, or at best, cold indifference. Nazi propaganda had warned them for years that Americans were brutal, uncivilized, and incapable of understanding German culture. Yet the moment they arrived in U.S. POW camps, thousands of these captured soldiers experienced something that shattered their expectations. Their American guards could speak perfect, fluent German. For men who had fought and bled for the Third Reich, it was one of the first shocks of captivity, and it marked the beginning of a deeply human and sometimes unsettling relationship between captor and captive. At the height of the war, the United States housed more than 370,000 German prisoners across nearly 700 camps spread from Texas to Minnesota and California. Many were ordinary soldiers, farmers, students, factory workers, swept into Hitler's war machine. When they arrived, tired and disoriented, they were often greeted not with violence, but with commands barked in their own tongue. Achtung, antreten! Some guards would shout, crisp, fluent, and unmistakably German. The prisoners froze. How could these Americans know their language so well? The answer lay in America's own immigrant story. Before the war, millions of German immigrants had settled across the United States. Their children, now grown, were bilingual and fiercely loyal to their adopted homeland. When war broke out, many of them enlisted, using their linguistic skills to serve in intelligence, interrogation, and camp administration. These German-American guards became the unexpected bridge between two worlds at war. For the prisoners of war, the experience was both comforting and unnerving. The familiarity of hearing their language again, the precise dialects from Bavaria, Hamburg, or Berlin, offered a strange sense of home, but it also stripped away illusions of superiority. One prisoner later recalled, "It was the first time we realized that the Americans were not the barbarians we had been told to fear. They were like us, educated, confident, and strangely kind." In some camps, especially in the American South and Midwest, communication between guards and prisoners became surprisingly friendly. The Germans were impressed not just by the guards' fluency, but by their fairness. They were fed well, allowed to work, and treated according to the Geneva Convention, a sharp contrast to the horror stories they had been told about Allied brutality. For many POWs, captivity in America felt almost surreal. They worked on farms, sang songs in the evenings, and even watched American movies under supervision. The guards who spoke German often joined them in conversation, not to interrogate, but to talk about music, sports, or families left behind. These exchanges softened the image of the enemy on both sides. The guards saw the humanity in the men they once fought, and the prisoners discovered that the enemy was not the monster of propaganda, but a nation built on freedom and opportunity. Still, there were moments of tension. Some German officers resented the American guards who spoke their language too well. To them, it felt like a psychological tactic, a way to unsettle and control, and in some cases, it was. Skilled linguists from the U.S. Army's Military Intelligence Service, many of them Jewish refugees from Germany, were stationed at POW camps and used their native fluency to gather information subtly during casual conversations. They listened for details about troop movements, morale, and weapon production. Their success was remarkable, and their presence, though rarely known to the average prisoner, helped the Allies gain valuable intelligence throughout the war. For other guards, however, language was not a weapon, but a bridge. They used it to maintain order, prevent misunderstandings, and even build respect. The fluency of the American guards created an environment where discipline came not through fear, but mutual understanding. Many German POWs later wrote home in astonishment about the experience. "These Americans speak better German than some of us," one prisoner joked in a letter censored by camp officials, "and they treat us better than our officers ever did." Such comments revealed the deep psychological impact that communication had on morale. Hearing familiar words from an unexpected source humanized the captors and eroded the mental barriers built by years of indoctrination. As the war drew to a close and prisoners were gradually repatriated, many carried those memories with them. Some returned to a ruined Germany and found themselves longing for the decency they had experienced in American captivity. A few even wrote back to their former guards, maintaining contact for years. For the guards themselves, the experience was equally transformative. Many German Americans who had once been treated with suspicion during the early years of the war found in this service a way to prove their loyalty, not through hatred, but through understanding. They embodied one of America's greatest strengths, the ability to absorb and reflect the world's cultures, even in times of war. In the years that followed, historians would look back at these encounters as small but powerful examples of shared humanity amidst conflict. The moment a German POW first heard an American guard give an order in flawless German symbolized something greater than surprise. It represented the collapse of the myth that language and culture could divide people forever. The fluency of those guards did more than maintain discipline. It reminded both sides that beneath uniforms and flags, they were still human beings capable of respect, curiosity, and empathy. And for thousands of captured Germans, that realization, delivered in their own language, would remain one of the most unforgettable shocks of their war.